and welcome to today's tutorial, which is about how to contribute to pandas package. We are happy to welcome our speakers. So before doing that, I would kindly remind you to maybe mute your cell phones. And if you want to spread the word about this talk, then just share a tweet on Twitter with the hashtag PyConDE or hashtag PyData Berlin. And as a next, I am very happy to welcome our speakers, Noa Tamir. You all know her from today's morning talk, and her colleague Patrick Hoefler, who will conduct this session with you. This session is a two-part session, 90 minutes each part, and we'll have a 10 minutes break between both parts. Yeah, so we are happy to have you. Please give a warm welcome to our contributors, and the stage is yours.
Hi, everyone. So yeah, we're also reusing these slides that we often use when we do workshops at PyLadies events, so we didn't redesign them for you. So go to PyLadies events, they're awesome. That's more or less our plan. So our goal is that you get to actually contribute to pandas today. The QR code is for the slides, so I have more QR codes for other links, but if you just want to have it, use it later or whatever, you could already grab that. Give you a moment, I still see a phone.
Great. I would recommend grabbing it, it's helpful later on.
I can also come back to this after, but yeah. Yeah, because we do have a bunch of links to share. The phones. All right. I think we're getting there. Okay. Good. So, a bit about us. So you met me this morning if you were at the keynote, but if not, I'm new to pandas. I've been contributing only for a year. We met here last year at this conference. I'm a self-taught Pythonista and R programmer. I'm not someone who went to a computer science class. If you do want to connect and reach out to us now or later on, we also included all sorts of links that you could, or tags for different places, so you could stay in touch later on if you're interested. And I'm currently teaching data science, actually, at Noa Tamir. And Patrick?
Hey, I'm Patrick. I'm a pandas maintainer since 2021. Noa and I are doing these workshops regularly with PyLadies Berlin, like every 2 months, probably. I am currently working at Coiled as a senior engineer, mostly working on Dask and better integrating Dask with pandas in general. I'm also self-taught. I'm currently doing a master degree in software engineering. And as Noah said, if you want to reach out, LinkedIn or GitHub is totally fine.
When you graduate, you can't say self-taught anymore.
That's true.
And Joris also is here with us.
Yeah. I'm currently mostly an open source developer, so I'm working at part-time at Photon Data, where I contribute to Apache Arrow, which is now also being used more and more in pandas, as Patrick explained on yesterday. I'm also involved in GeoPandas, the geospatial ecosystem in Python, and so yeah, there are some links there.
So to start with, I thought we'd talk about why are you all here? So I don't know if you know, but other than enjoying and maybe deciding to try it out. Many people decide to contribute to open source for many different reasons. Some choose to then spend all of their free time on it for some reason. I don't exactly know why. I can't explain it. But not everybody. And also for yourselves, maybe food for thought for later on. Some people just like the project, think they're cool, and just want to kind of be a part of the community. Some people found a bug and really want to fix it and then realize how hard it is or easy it is to fix it. Some people are studying or learning something in general, and they just want to be continuously learning, and it's free and open, so why not try and learn in public, which I think is really brave. And some people are attracted, like I said, to the community, or they're interested. It's a complex technical problem to really get into it. So there's many different reasons. Not everybody does it to become a maintainer. Not everybody becomes a maintainer, and that's totally fine. That said, if you're interested, we'd love to hear. So yeah, I just wanted to create some space for that, to reflect also for you. It's nice you're here trying it out if you haven't done it before. Some of you maybe contributed to others, to other projects. So I just wanted to give you a quick intro to what in case you haven't. So maybe how many people have never contributed to open source before? All right. So majority. So I thought maybe I'd give you just a quick intro to what is an open source project, kind of like how we're organized. So just so you know that most projects have established, some are work in progress governance, some are just de facto. That means you can read about how the project is organizing, who does what, how often they meet, what they do, how they work, how they make decisions. It has maintainers, so those are usually contributors that have been contributing for a while, that know a bit more, that are involved, that show that they're committed, and that means I also usually have more rights, from voting to commit, like all sorts of rights in the project. There are also folks who are not maintainers but maybe very active, supporting in triage teams and documentation teams and all sorts of other work. So there's all sorts of working groups and roles where you can be a member even if you're not yet a maintainer, and some of the maintainers are also members of those groups. Specifically for pandas, if you're interested, you can check. We have about pages, a team page, a roadmap, a governance, all sorts of things that kind of explain a bit more about how the project is organized and how it works. There are also a lot of ways to contribute. So when you're like, let's contribute, what are we actually doing here? You can add tests if you understand and know unit tests and feel comfortable. You can open issues and recognize, and especially when we do new releases, that can be very helpful. I think you heard about that yesterday. You can write documentation, make sure that things that are either not explained or not explained well enough are explained better for future users. You can submit pull requests to actually address open issues and try to resolve them. You can review other people's pull requests. That's not something that's only one person or only maintainers can do. Triage as well. Check if it worked for you. Check if you can reproduce a bug, and just help to answer and communicate in the project. You can develop educational material. Maybe a lot of us are not great. You can contribute to graphic design and illustrations and help clarify things visually or make things look better, more appealing, more clear. And sometimes also adding translations and things could also be helpful. So all sorts of things. That's a big community project. If you are contributing, whether it's to pandas or to any other project, I do recommend that you look under the hood. This is something that GitHub often helps you with. Not all the Python and PyData projects you would know and love are mostly Python. A lot of times under the hood, they have C, Fortran, C++, all sorts of other technologies. And so if you're a majority a Python programmer, it might be easier for you to join or contribute in the beginning to projects that are majority Python. Luckily, pandas is one of those. So you can see this. There are sometimes things that you can't see. We also, for our documentation, use restructured text and Sphinx, and we use doc strings. So if those are things any one of these are things you feel comfortable with, you could probably help and start contributing in the project. A little bit about what you actually need to know in order to submit, for example, a documentation PR, if that is what you would be doing today. You do need to know how to use Git and GitHub. You would need to be able to know how to build a project's development environment and documentation, or we have a Gitpod. We can show you how to use that today. So that means you can use you don't need to do the development environment locally, but rather use it in browser. You'd still need to know how to build our documentation. But you also need to be interested in improving the documentation you are addressing. So it's not just like, let's get a contribution in. You should, care about helping us make the project better and more useful for others. You want to talk about the contributors guide, maybe?
As Noah said, most of open source projects will most likely have a contributors guide, which should explain roughly what you need to do to get started. The pandas contributor guide focuses a lot on how to set up the development environment. Like Noah showed a picture earlier about what's inside of pandas. Like we have 90% Python, but we also have some Cython, which means you have to build C extensions if you want to get the development version running. What we would recommend for today is that you use gitbot. The setup is like nearly instant. It takes a couple of minutes to get an account, and then you can get started. You don't have to worry about hardware requirements or anything else. If you're not on GitHub yet, you should join and create an account. Is anyone not on GitHub yet? Okay, so we should be good. If you want to set up your stuff locally, then you'll need Git installed. This is relatively easy, just Googling Git and then taking one of the first links. That's not an advertisement. That would be helpful. And let's move on to Gitpod. The cool thing about Gitpod is that it spawns basically a Docker container in the cloud that you can connect to locally via VS Code. That's what works most reliable. And then you can start like changing the code. Gitpod is pre-configured from us. It already built a C extension, so you're good to go from the start. You don't have to worry about installing a compiler or anything like this. Do we have a link?
The documentation had a link.
Okay, a link to the Gitpod is in the documentation.
Yeah. All right. So we thought some of you might want to work in pairs. It can be useful to figure stuff out together if you're new. So how about we take 10 minutes and you all talk to each other. So I set up some questions that might be helpful for you to figure out if you want to work with others or by yourself, but feel free to talk about whatever you want. And then we can continue and get into things, because you kind of need to figure out if you want to work by yourself or with others, and it could be very beneficial for those who want to go together. And if not, you just met someone at a conference.
QR code slides to this slide. That we can show it constantly while they are talking. The QR code to the slides. Because I think it might have been a bit too quick in the beginning.
Yeah, I'm gonna add it in a bit. I just also want to right away. Let me just make this not private, and then, because this will be critical. I think in a bit, once they get started, they'll have more questions than we are able to answer at once. So I think you and Natalia can both. Either.
Just because.
Did you get the browser?
Well, it's I just started now, but it's still rebuilding.
If it's working, then it's okay. I couldn't get it to work on my machine like when we tried it before our last workshop in January.
The thing is that I've never used it not in browser, so I'm like, cool. Also, the internet is great.
Yeah, it might get Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I'm also not getting strong Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I was just wondering, because if you do it locally with VS Code, it also requires installation. I need to add a SSH, and if just follow the instructions. But VS Code is but you
can't recall, I don't think so. I'm not totally sure.
Because it's connected to SSH, I need to add a public key for gitbot. I need to add a public key to the gitbot.
I could just click on trust this connection. So it might be a difference between Mac and
I believe
I think when we I can mention it basically.
yeah, if you could do that, but
yeah,
for
definitely.
people, yes, I mean, they can just raise
Yeah, because I was also going to mention the Discord so that people know to write us questions as well. So we can do both.
yes, then I will just read them out
the general one
or
was
send it to you.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
you should try disconnect and reconnect. That solved it for me.
Thank you.
Like turning your Wi-Fi off and then trying it again.
Oh, I GitHub today.
No, this is actually the Wi-Fi.
I blame both. Are you on Slack? Send you a message in the morning.
I am Slack, but I didn't check Slack properly.
Oh, because I sent you on Signal yesterday on Slack today, and I'm just, I don't know if you're using a different application or anything.
Yours is on Slack and on Signal, and but you're not very responsive on Signal.
But the problem is like, yeah,
Scroll all the way down.
yesterday
Thank you.
my phone was on
Sorry.
Visibility.
not disturbed because of the day. Well, on the train I was just not checking my phone. So, the reason, I don't know, I'm not very good with my phone.
He asked about tomorrow lunch.
Tomorrow. Yeah.
Because he prefers that to today evening. Yeah?
I just need to ensure that my talk is ready.
What time is your talk?
After lunch. No, but that's fine.
Then just tell me what time and then I can write it on another slide. Because I'm on like 20. And
But-
some tulips.
Anyway, the online version for me is now I can type in
Few more minutes.
And we can tell them that they can use code. If they've got VS Code installed, I would recommend VS Code. But if they don't, then I would recommend browser.
the link to the slides. Can I find it somewhere?
It was something first.
I will post it. Yeah.
Because I was thinking that I don't know if someone posts in the Discord.
Oh, that's great. You can do it out as well.
Maybe in the
If you I can post it as well if you want.
Let me quickly go. It's over here. Oh god, this is so hard.
Yeah, that was easy. Noa, can remote attendees join the workshop? Probably not.
They can ask questions, but we can't, I think we said it's an in-person.
we already had enough people.
As for Emerald, unfortunately, it's not practical because we can't really answer questions.
Yeah, good. Let me try this again. And
So, should normally modern Androids be able to scan your QR code?
yes,
How do you do that?
you point your camera at it, and it shows you the
But so it doesn't do that.
For me, it's in the camera app, but also in Android.
As you can see, I tried this.
You should pair with someone, otherwise there's nothing. The rest of the event we're gonna be doing things.
I just try to see the best practice.
We're not gonna show anything. They're gonna be doing it. We're gonna go and answer questions.
Oh, okay. Okay, but then can I ask?
You can work with someone. I think that would be best. Yeah. Yeah.
Are they taking issues from the actual pandas repo, or do you have like a learning repo or something like that?
We have, so I have a repo on mine that we linked issues because we didn't want people on the main repo to know, but it's real issues.
So what is the repo that you will ask them to do stuff like?
I'll share the link in a bit, but it's on my GitHub, Noa Tamir, and then it's like PyData workshop or something. But I'll show it in a bit. Okay, shall we keep going?
Let's give them 2 more minutes.
2 more minutes?
It's only 7.
Ah, okay. You have a timer?
No, but we started at 2:20 and now it's 2:27. Did she ask anything? Like, what's the question she just
No, she doesn't have her laptop, so she was wondering if it's okay to just listen and then turn quite so much. There's not going to be much to listen to.
Not really.
Yeah.
That's something we should have like mentioned maybe.
Wasn't it in the description?
What? I can't recall.
The PyData we always say bring a laptop. And I think I originally copied from there.
Yeah, you probably have it in there. And it just like
Yeah.
didn't consider it when reading the
Yeah.
docs. Reading.
All right. Hey, everyone. So, quick show of hands. Is there anybody who would like to work in a pair and doesn't have a pair yet? Okay. Great. Then I think we're ready to go. First, before we get going, do you have any, we'll show you now how to, we'll talk about the environment, we'll show you where you can find issues. Is there anything you have a question on before we get there? Okay.
There's one question.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Gitpod, gitbot.io, I think?
Yes.
That is this screenshot we shared earlier that allows you to use kind of VS Code or a development environment in the cloud so you don't have to install everything on your computer. And so if you don't want to go through all of the installation before you work on an issue, you can launch it, wait a couple of minutes till it sets up, and then you can start working on an issue directly. There is a free option, and that will give you 50 hours a month, which I think will be sufficient for today. Yeah, but I also use the free account for a long time. You could probably even use it later on for a while until you decide to actually install or figure things yourself. I would say anybody who's using a Windows machine, highly recommended that you go for that option today. It's just harder to set up the environment. Yeah.
Also related to GitBot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If we get stuck, can we get some help?
We are here, and we also have 2 volunteers to answer all your questions today and get you contributing to Pandas. Awesome. Any more? Great. So, Yeah, the first thing you'll need to do is make sure you have a development environment. If you choose to work on your own machine and set everything up, you need to follow these steps. This is all in our documentation. I just want to briefly go through it together so you're not surprised by the amount of context and text you're going to be reading. And there's a lot of different options of what you could be doing, depending on how you want to set up your machine specifically and what you have preferences for. But you will definitely need to be forking the main repository. You need to clone your fork locally or have a clone of your fork on your machine. Then you want to make sure that you set pandas devs / pandas, the original repository, as the upstream. We also have a Docker that you can use locally if you want to go through the Docker route, or if you're on Linux, then you don't need to make sure you have a C compiler. But if you don't, then you do need to make sure that you have a C compiler. You'll also need to make sure that you install either Mamba, Minicoda, or Anaconda to set up our development environment. Then you need to just tell us that you're ready, that you have an environment, it's all good. You need to be able to build pandas locally. This is great, because then if you're going to make changes, no matter if it's a documentation or anything else, you can rebuild it and see the changes affect locally before, and check if it works before submitting it. And at the end, it would be very useful if you also enable your pre-commit. These are the checks that we do on commits once you submit a PR, and you can run them locally before then and find anything that is already wrong locally before you open the PR, so that's convenient. You can see the bracket over there shows you that if you go through the gitbot, and that's why we said it will go faster, you don't need to do all of those steps. You just need to make sure you have a gitbot account and go to that link. And the rest you can work, and we also have documentation for how to use gitbot in our development environment documentation as well. So that would get you faster to contributing, but if you potentially want to, you already know that you're more likely to be doing more than just the issue you'll be working on today, then maybe you want to set yourself up already for future work locally on your machine, and we could help you with that too. So one of the first questions that comes up with new contributors, it was mine as well, is how do I get started? How do I know what to work on? There's usually a lot of open issues. There is some ideas that you have, and it's not necessarily easy to know how to get started, especially in a large, complex project. For that, we did two things. First of all, we set up a repository where we pre-selected for you some issues that we think are nice to get started on. We also usually on the pandas project have a label that's called good first issue. So if you're also later on looking for issues, it's pretty useful to look at that label. We didn't label those issues because if we would, people take them really fast. So yeah, if we would have labeled all of those issues as good first issue, we wouldn't have any issues for the workshop today. But generally, we do label ongoingly all the time issues that we think are relatively approachable for new contributors. Needs test is also a label that we have, which usually describes what needs a test very well. I recommend that you scroll all the way down. There's usually a snippet of code that already shows how the test, some of the functionality the test should be checking for. And if you're comfortable with unit testing, that might be an easy way for you to get started. I think all my first PRs were unit tests. And in general, how do you then pick from all the available options to what you should be working on specifically? I would recommend that you start with what you feel comfortable doing, what's your skill set, what's your interests, and then, again, before you open maybe issues or want to solve bugs that you don't know how complex they are and so on, try at the beginning for the first few issues to work on issues that are already open, that are relevant to the project. You're going to be helping and helping pandas improve while learning how to contribute to pandas and how to kind of navigate the code base. And maybe later on, you could also move to kind of identifying things that could be worked on yourself. And in general, it's good to start small. In the beginning, you just want to learn the whole workflow of how to work with open source projects in general and pandas specifically. So that's for that. This we can do later when you're ready to open a PR. So one other thing I wanted to show you is that this thing is a link. And if you'd like, you can help us know how well you're all doing, since you're quite a lot in this room. And so you can add your name and GitHub user to the list. And check off how you're going with the development environment setup, and we can kind of start seeing if everybody's stuck at a certain level, we might start explaining or showing things, but otherwise we're also here to just help you individually resolve issues. So at this point, I would recommend that you launch your gitbot or start working on your dev environment and then select an issue you want to work on. Sorry? That is setting up your development environment. And in case you missed it, this is the QR code for the slides. Yeah.
The link is also in the Discord channel.
Yes, great, thank you. Yeah?
I have a question, a practical question.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you proceed once you decide that you have picked an issue you would like to work on? Like,
Mm-hmm.
do you comment it and like say,
Excellent.
working on it? Like, how do you do it in pandas?
In pandas itself, we have a bot. If you comment take in an issue, then it will assign the issue to yourself, because this is not possible if you don't have any rights in the repository. For the workshop we have today, we created a repository that has like 10 issues that have each a number of sub-issues, and if you want to start working on one, then just write a comment, I'm working on this. That's it. Otherwise it gets confusing. Really good question.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions? Then start contributing to pandas. Yeah.
I'm not sure if everything worked out as expected, so I have installed, I compiled the Panda version 0, not 2.0, but 0, and it seems to be an open GitHub post on this one as well. I'm not sure if this is
One second. Last but not least, you can also write questions on Discord or Slido, and we will also monitor those.
Yeah, I'm wondering, because they cities have really had a lot of always had like a different compile stuff that they
And then it doesn't know which version this is. But this is not wrong. You have to write it. So then you go to you can run it, but that means one question that came up, you shouldn't run all tests, otherwise your laptop will be busy for the next 20 to 30 minutes. Just run a subset of the tests if you want to check if everything works as expected.
Yeah.
Did you set up a step-by-step on what to do? Because a lot of people are asking me and I don't actually know where to see it.
Yeah, 1 second. It's in the slides. I'm just trying to, yeah. Da, da, da. Great. I can...
my mobile was fast. I think like this Wi-Fi now is
It is. We spoke to them. Trying to get a computer going. It'll take a while.
Also, GitHub was down this morning, so I almost had a heart attack. So it was like everything is working against me.
So maybe it's just all the internet.
I can't see. Which one is the sign-in? Is it this one?
That one is
Or this one?
That's a login. Are you trying to log in? That's a login.
Yeah.
Yeah.
GitHub.
GitLab is below, yeah.
Thank you. Now I hope I don't have to type my password in front of everyone, but we'll see.
Yeah, so now you're also in the loading hell.
Not yet, but...
New workspace. And then context URL.
Is it this?
No results. It says Noa Tamir / pandas.
Yeah, I'm not sure. 1 second. I used to. Oh, hello. That's why.
Yeah, there it is. Noa Tamir / pandas. So this is just what people are supposed to put?
Yeah. So if anyone's trying to launch a gitbot and hasn't yet, I'm doing it on screen now. Yeah. So I went to gitbot.io. I logged in, and then it launched a new workspace, or went to launch a new workspace. Then I picked my fork of pandas, so it has /my GitHub username /pandas. So far, people are with me? Great. And then you can decide if you want to have it in browser, or if you have local VS Code, you can also choose to work with your local VS Code installation. That can also work. And then I click New Workspace. And it's going to take some time. It's still faster than doing it yourself on your computer, usually. Yes, the internet is slow. The internet is slow.
Yeah.
A short note for the people that were working in gitbot and got an error when importing pandas. That's because the Python, we pulled the latest version of pandas, but we didn't properly rebuild the extension, so the part that is compiled. And so if you run that command, then normally that should fix the import error. So that's basically rebuilding the all the extension code in pandas in place. Oops.
Yeah, and I don't know that they stopped, how they fixed it, but it's a behavior, and then I'll just write some easy tests, which actually did not work for us. Yeah, you do understand what default behavior is.
It doesn't really show that clearly. Different, from that's
Trying to find consolas or something.
Courier. I also didn't show it.
Oh man, they all controls.
Consoles or something like that. Does it have consoles? Yeah, I don't know.
I'm desperate. Okay.
Can you just quickly check that it's certain? Yeah, so it's.
Sorry for the people using gitbot, one more correction. So this is the correct command that you need to use to fix it. But otherwise, what you can also do, or if you didn't yet start actually making changes, you can also restart gitbot after ensuring that you sync your fork and then just restart gitbot, then it should also be fixed. Sorry for the troubles. Yeah. But so we need to fix our contributing guide because the comment that doesn't work. So our contributing guide says that you should
I mean, I can fix it now, so I can also do
well,
it.
I don't fully understand why it's saying that, because what we had in the gitbots was just copied from our contributing guides.
I mean, but Marco has been updating it a lot recently, and sometimes Marco does what works for him. I've had this before. He was like, it works for me, and I'm like, I was in a workshop, but it doesn't work for 20 people. I'm changing it.
Yeah, I don't know if this part is recently...
yes.
So the built-in installed here. So this first line isn't building in place.
That's
so
true.
The second...
So everyone, it's 3:35 and it's time for a break. So we'll have a 10 minutes break and we'll continue with a session at 4:45. Quarter to 4. And I would have a small announcement to you to make. Everyone who register for our today gathering event in the evening, please pick up your wristbands from the registration desk before it's too crowded. So everyone who will join our event in the evening, the dinner basically, please pick up your wristband from the registration desk.